Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In September this year, the federal government imposed a tariff on drywall being imported from the United States to Western Canada. This was based on Eastern Canadian drywall companies lobbying the federal government to ensure Western Canada paid more for its drywall. Overnight, the price of drywall went up in Alberta. Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, what are you doing to work with the federal government to get these tariffs lifted and ensure Alberta builders have access to affordable drywall?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll thank the member for the very pertinent question. First of all, I want to begin, Mr. Speaker, by saying that, like all Albertans, I'm concerned about the potential impact of this trade dispute on the costs for families, especially those rebuilding from the Fort McMurray wildfire. However, Mr. Speaker, the local industry here in Alberta and across Canada has suggested that their competitors in the U.S. are not dealing fairly. And governments have an obligation to follow up on that. So our interest, Mr. Speaker, is ensuring both producers and consumers have access to an impartial system where competing claims can be...
Thank you, Honourable Minister. First supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that even during this period of economic hardship, Albertans are still building new homes, and given that the rebuild of Fort McMurray will require great amounts of building supplies, to the Minister, if this government is not successful in having the tariffs removed, how will this affect the cost of building new homes in Alberta?
Honourable Minister.
So again, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that this is a very unfortunate situation. We have two different interests going on here. So, the federal government has an obligation when a claim has been made that there's been an unfair dumping of gypsum into the Canadian economy, and so that's where they initially imposed the tariff. I can tell you that they are trying to fast-track hearings and trying to get to a resolution very quickly.
Second supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given that the federal government is working to not have the U.S. government put tariffs on softwood lumber from Canada, and given that the federal government put tariffs on U.S. drywall coming into Western Canada, to the same minister, will you stand up to the forest and construction industries in Alberta and work with the federal government to be fair with our major trading partners?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, both the Minister of Forestry and Agriculture and myself have been working very diligently on the softwood lumber file, and I've been in regular conversation with my federal counterpart, Minister Freeland, on this issue and also on the softwood lumber issue. I just want to say that, first of all, there's nothing contradictory between pursuing a remedy for softwood lumber and issuing anti-dumping tariffs on drywall. Both are about ensuring Alberta businesses and consumers have fair, equal, and undistorted opportunity in markets here and internationally.
The honourable member